Now, look, a scandal of a very different kind. Strictly Come Dancing and the BBC. Now, I have been holding fire on this on the show because what I can't work out yet is whether this is a mainstream media beat up or another genuine new BBC scandal along the lines of Jimmy Savile. But certainly the media, and the tabloid media in particular, seem to believe that there is a big issue with the male professional dancers. The Sun today suggesting that there might be a third professional dancer implicated, of course, alongside Giovanni Peniche and Graziano Di Prima, who are the two male celebrities who have already left the show. Now, Calvin, this is incredibly awkward for Strictly Come Dancing because it's their 20-year anniversary. And of course, the BBC likes to present this as a family-friendly show, even though for years and years and years, they've actually encouraged loads of shagging behind the scenes and husbands and wives seeing their relationships broken up. So let's just remember for 1 second, this ain't a family-friendly show, given the number of relationships it's broken up. But where do you stand on this media witch hunt, Calvin? Because after what happened to me last year, I have a very clear view on these things. If there has been wrongdoing conducted, go to the police or go to HR and allow there to be a formal process. Because what I feel like is that Giovanni and Graziano have been declared guilty by the media without any form of evidence or any form of due process.
Yeah, you're right. If someone's broken the law, then due process should be followed. They should be innocent until proven guilty, and that should be followed up. The problem I have with this is that I'm not convinced that the BBC will follow the law or follow due process. And you're right to point out Jimmy Savile as an example. The cover-ups at that place are disgusting. The debauchery and degeneracy around this show in particular, it is evident to all of us, even those of us that don't watch the horrible show. It's the breaking down of families and the promotion of indecency is not appropriate for a BBC, a state broadcaster. And so if something is going on behind the scenes that is highly inappropriate and questionable to the point of potentially being illegal, I'm not convinced the BBC is going to do anything proper about it.
Angela Levin, where do you stand on this one? Because, of course, it's a tough show. The rehearsals have been particularly brutal. But at the same time, you've got women like Zara McDermott and Amanda Abbington who claim that actually they were improperly treated during the rehearsals.
Well, I think it's ridiculous if grown-up women have to have chaperones when they're rehearsing something like that. I mean, if they feel they're not children, they're not teenagers, if they feel that they're not being properly treated, they can say, I'm leaving, I'm going, I'm not doing this. You can walk out. I mean, they've got to look after themselves a lot. And the other part of that program is that it is sexy. The dancing is sexy, and there is a sort of feeling of romance. And I think that some women think that actually that romance is meant for them. What it is really is most of these guys are trying to do as much as possible that it looks very romantic so that they win and they get rich and all that sort of things. And I think that they've got to control it. I mean, they get very upset, and if somebody says something not very nice to them, they sort of cry and want to take things to court and all that. And I think that you shouldn't go on something like that unless you feel that the person who's teaching you wants you to do well, and they can get annoyed if you don't practice it enough and if you're not really doing what's physically needed. And I think the tension there is very high, but you have to split what it is. It's because somebody wants to do very well. Maybe they have been badly behaved, or maybe they shouldn't actually fall in love with each other. These things happen in all sorts of areas where you're surprised about them. But I think you also have to be a woman who can stand up to yourself.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it, Calvin? Because is it snowflake culture pervading a reality show like this, because we never had these complaints in the early days of Strictly Come Dancing. Yes, there was lots of shagging going on, but there was never any claim of violence or bullying. At the same time, I've spoken to people who are close to Amanda Abington, for example, Calvin, who insist that the behavior was completely inappropriate. And of course, people should not be physically abused during a show. I mean, of course, that goes without saying. But I look at what Zara McDermott said when she left Strictly Come Dancing, and she thanked Graziano and said he'd been the most amazing partner to her and that he loved working with her and she loved all of his passions. So is this almost another example, Calvin, of offence archaeology? Getting really worried about something that happened years and years and years ago, which actually was just you didn't get on with your dance partner during a dance show. Big deal.
Perhaps, but I think Angela makes a very good common sense argument that actually, if you don't like it, then leave. Like, you don't need to be there.
Yeah, which Amanda Abington did, in fairness. And that's why I give her more credit, because she is the only one that quit midway through the series, which makes me think that maybe her complaint has some more merit.
Yeah, I do worry because, of course, we do need to listen when people say they are being abused or something dodgy is going on. At the same time, we can't assume that someone else is guilty. So there has to be, the BBC needs a transparency process. They need to have some kind of system where these things are reported.
But come on, we know there's no transparency at the BBC, Calvin.
Well,
scandal after scandal. Jimmy Savile, Martin Bashir's interview with Princess Diana, Hugh Edwards, the list goes on. The BBC doesn't do transparency. They do cover-ups. I guess the big question is, it's been 20 years. Is this just the time to axe this show now? It's past its prime. The viewership is tumbling. It's broken up enough marriages. What do you both think? Do we think Strictly Come Dancing after 2 decades needs to shimmy off to the left?
I used to love watching it because it was fun and nice, and especially to see how people improved each installment. But on the other hand, now they don't get very famous people. I don't know who they are, so I'm not interested in the same way. And
that people I've never heard of most of the time.
And I think that it's probably enough. I think you should finish it without it getting too much of a fight. And I think there is going to be a lot of mess and not understanding what's going on, or not saying that sorry that it should have happened. I think they should start again with some other sort of dancing thing and leave this behind now, because it's not very tasteful.
Last dance.
Dan, you've highlighted a bigger problem here, in that the BBC is its own watchdog. They are their own Ofcom, and they are biased and corrupt. And I think actually, forget Strictly, it's time for the BBC to end it. It's time for the BBC to defund itself.
Well, that's where I'm at. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.